Well, welcome everybody to a post-international break episode of Forever Bristol City podcast. Final score at Carrow Road. It finished Norwich City 0, City 1. Fabulous 3 points. We're going to go through the action in a while, but just to switch things around a little bit, I just want to talk about last Wednesday's fans forum that took place at Ashton Gate. On the top table were Tom Rawcliffe, Gerhard and Brian Tinian. I'm joined today by Dave, Tubby and Mark, who are related, so they tell me, back in the distant past, and of the Robin's Nest. Tom, good to have you on again, Tom. So I'll start with Dave. You said let's twist it around this bit. What were your takeaways from the fans forum, which you watched in full and I watched in part?
First of all, I'd like to highlight the performance, or shall I say the attitude of Mr. Rawcliffe, or Tom Rawcliffe, shall we say. I thought he comes across as an excellent addition. I know he's been there a while, but in this particular role, he comes across as a man that gets football. I know he likes to refer to himself as the accountant, but he made me laugh out loud a few times. The way he talks about football, the line between honesty but protecting interests you've got to protect. I thought he's the kind of guy that, as a football fan, you want to hear him speak more and more, because you feel like this guy's telling me the things that I need to hear, but in a way that is good for everybody. And I felt more connected to the club by his performance. So I have to say, well played. Let me throw it to you guys. Tom, what did you think of it that you heard? What stood out in your opinion?
Yeah, first of all, I have to say I agree with what you said about Tom Rawcliffe. I met him at the HPC, I think back in July, and he came across as exactly that back then. Just a man that totally gets it and is really relatable, I think, as well. Yeah, it was good fans forum. I think there was quite a lot of honesty, as much honesty as there could have been from the people that were on the panel. One of the couple of things that were noted to me were, I believe it was Viner and Mehmeti. Tinian said they've both been offered contracts. That was something that's been talked about quite a lot on this podcast. And I think there was, I don't know quite how to word it, but they were not necessarily admitting that the signings have been failures, but they were genuinely saying that they don't think the signings of Sinclair Armstrong and Fally Mayulu have quite worked out to this stage, in different words than that, I think. So it's quite nice to have that honesty, I thought.
It was pretty strong at times, like being so forthright that if they don't start scoring goals by Christmas, then we'll look to get a striker. I'm not sure how I feel about that. On the one hand, I liked it, but on the other hand, it's like that's a lot of weight that you're putting under strikers that you would normally look to protect. But there was none of that. It was a refreshing honesty, but in times an uncomfortable honesty. Mark, what were your thoughts?
I didn't get a chance to watch the fans forum because I've been off sick the last few days, unfortunately. But I looked at the threads, and I think it is quite refreshing because so many key people are under the microscope for signings, which of course are going to be determined by the number of goals scored. I think Mayhew scored a couple and Armstrong scored 3, and they clearly failed. But to admit that is quite refreshing, really. But it's plain as the nose on your face what the problem is. So they had to say something. But you didn't get a politician's answer by the sound of it, which is quite refreshing. Makes a change.
Mr. P, in terms of the academy, the answers they gave, the framing that no one's ready to start matches, did you think that was kind of acceptable? Because no one's really asking to start games. We're more asking to see people coming on from the bench and stuff. Did you think that they were hiding a little bit in those answers towards the academy, or do you think it was fair what they were saying?
I mean, what else can they say, Dave? It's they're refreshingly honest. I think the one thing that people have criticised is it's very easy to try and rewrite history, but when they were talking about the signings to play a system, and you was brought in as somebody replayed what Brian Tinian said a year ago or so when you came in. They've admitted those signings are wrong, but we've got those players round our necks now for the next 3 years, and it doesn't look like there's any money that's going to come into the coffers to go out and get a replacement. I mean, it's going to be very challenging come January if we're 3 points off the playoffs. I mean, we're in them at the moment, although no, I think we dropped out because Leicester got a point last night, didn't they? But, where is the money going to come from? And I think it can only come from one source, and that is if Semenyo does go to one of the big clubs now for money that is astronomical, and it could drop, let's say he went for 80 million, it could drop 15 million quid into the cash. Now, is Mr. Lansdowne, would he let Gerhard spend all of that money if it does come in? But back to the point, I thought, as you said, Tom comes across really, really well. He's only 36, Tom. He's not got the experience that Richard Gould had, because before Richard Gould came to Bristol City, he'd been at Somerset and Surrey. Yeah, but we've got a good pair of hands there in Tom and Gerhard. Gerhard, we know what he's like now. And Tinian, you get some at this level that we're in the market in terms of buying players. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some, because you break Tinian for getting Maulu and Armstrong. And I still think we'd have been better off buying one decent player than two punts. But he also has been responsible for bringing in Adam Randall, people like that. Yeah,
it's a good point you make there on Tinian, and I've left it to the end for a reason. And Tom, what do you think of Tinian's performance overall at the Fans Forum? Was it improved from previous aspects that you've seen? Do you want more from that kind of position? He was there as the football guy, and he got a lot of football stuff wrong. Was it enough for you, or would you expect more?
I would expect more. I think it's not really like an executive role, I guess, but for someone to speak at a forum like that, I don't know. I'd expect a bit more polish with some of the things that he said as well. Obviously, I think when he was talking about you, he was referring to systems that we played, said that we didn't really play a 4-2-3-1, but I think quite a lot of games we played under Manning, we were a 4-2-3-1 at times. I think he also announced a fair few, well, may have just been one actually, might have just been Conway's fee, but some undisclosed.
4 million. No, he said Conway was 4 million. Yeah.
Yeah.
So to me, that was it. The issue is that I understand, he's there to do the football stuff, but to get it so wrong at times, the youth stuff just wasn't on. Some of the explanations, like we signed a goalkeeper to let goalkeepers go out on loan when we don't have any real goalkeepers on loan, and you're using up space in the squad. I don't want to say how effective he is, but just judging him on that performance, it's like, you're probably better off not in that environment and just do your work in the background, because he is a mixed bag. He divides opinion, but at the same time, we're looking at the squad, which he's been involved in, and some of it's good and some of it's bad. I just don't think he gives the best of himself in that environment, and maybe just don't put him there. Because at the end of the day, it's a lose-lose for him. He can't win in that situation because everybody's listening for every minute detail. And you're right, you get a first player's name wrong. Does it matter if you're spelling it McNally? I say Borges. Is it Borges? No. But sometimes I feel like he doesn't give the best version of himself. And all I really care about is that he does the best in Bristol City. And I don't feel like he came across as well as he could have done, even though I see him as improved.
I mean, look, the greatest person for talking was Mark Ashton. You got to hand it to Ashton, because he could dress he was very polished at doing all of that. But I think Mark Ashton's got to be in his mid to late 50s now. And if you look at where Tom is, as a 36-year-old who's been associated with the club for 7 years or so now, it was Mark Ashton who brought Tom Rawcliffe into Bristol City. Yeah, Tom is a good person to have at the front, with Gerhard. I don't see the point necessarily in having a player at a fans forum like that, particularly when they get asked a very inane question, like, which of the players are afraid of flying? Jesus, where did that come from? Yeah, that was pretty inane. And nobody asked one question that could have been asked, was the Carrie Cornick situation. He didn't even make the bench yesterday, did he? So, he should be flying out through the door on.
I think he's got a knee injury. I heard on the grapevine. I don't know whether that's true. Yeah, I think he's injured.
Just one last question for all of you. Just a summary answer. Having watched Fans Forum, did it leave a positive impact or a negative impact overall? Were you left with more hope? Less? How did you feel personally? I came out of it, and mainly from hearing Tom speak, I felt more positive. I had a bit of hope. Like, this guy is a good pair of hands to have around transfers, to have input. He might not suggest the players, but I feel like he's going to get it right. So for me, I came out of it feeling positive. Tom, how did you feel?
Yeah, exactly the same. Much how I left the HPC on July after speaking to Tom. Yeah, I feel we've got a safe pair of hands running the football club with, I think he's got the right mindset and he totally gets, he almost comes across as a fan in some ways as to the things that he wants for our club, to be honest.
Exactly. And Mr. P, how about you? And then on to the game.
What do I feel about it? I didn't see. It's almost a case of we are where we are, which I think was a phrase that Nigel Pearson once used. I didn't see a great deal of ambition coming through. And I read, in fact, I felt okay about it, but I reposted something that Henry Winter put on Twitter yesterday, and he said CBS Arena heading for another side, 30,000 crowd, blah 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 blah. Well, the remarkable story of the Sky Blues, Frank Lampard's transformative management. I think we've got transformative management on the field with Gerhard Struber. We'll talk about the game yesterday, but I'll say it now. That was the worst of Manning ball that we saw yesterday. I pity the Norwich City fans. So Henry Winter said, transformative management. When he arrived, they were 17th, now top. Organised defence, no goals conceded, another couple yesterday. Players responding and delivering Lampard's coaching and people skills, seen in the improved form of, amongst others, De Silva. Remember him? Jay De Silva. Torp, Thomas Asante, Haji Wright. These aren't players that have cost big money, yeah? This is the bit that got me. Doug King's transformative ownership, investment into the squad, holding on to players, Rudoni, and for instance, when Southampton and Newcastle were interested, investment in a training ground, tick, we've done that. Buying the ground. I can remember watching City play Coventry at Northampton's ground barely 10 years ago. And I know Coventry were in the top flight from 1967 through till, 2001. But they look like they're going back there. And I want to see, and they touched on investment at the fans forum, and Tom said that they talked to Turkey Owl, whatever his name is. I want to see transformative ownership. Yeah. And our good friend Ian said, well, be careful what you wish for, as people always say. But yeah, I keep going back. Brentford, Brighton and Bournemouth. I just want a little bit of what they're having. Yeah. And I thought the forum was good, but it was like, we are where we are. Yeah. Now,
maybe we're seeing shoots of that, we've talked with Rockcliffe in his new position, his feet under the table now, the appointment of Struber. Maybe the era of making it up as we go along is coming to an end, and there is something more of a plan being put in place step by step. I think we can't, everything you say is right. I felt like, we go from one thing to another, one plan to the next. We've seen comments like, I want to be like Luton and Brentford, that are worlds apart.
Yeah.
Maybe, hopefully, with the right inputs, the era of making it up as we go along is coming to an end. We can but hope.
But you see, the thing is, going back to Tom again, you look at Tom's profile with us, right? He does a good job for us as chief exec, and over the next couple of years, he's going to be on the radar of bigger clubs than Bristol City. Yeah. Sure. And can somebody like Tom fulfill his ambitions? When Richard Gould left, he went for the best job, the top job in cricket. He'd been chief exec of Surrey, Somerset and Surrey, then Bristol City. That was a step forward. And as I say, Tom is a bright guy. He's the finance guy. He knows his stuff. Yeah. So you're right. He's there. He doesn't sign the checks, though. That always goes back to Lansdowne. And sure. He was getting some criticism on social media because they did an interview with him about the rugby club, and Bristol Bears are doing great at the moment. And it's a lot less expensive funding a top flight rugby club than it is a football club. But there we go. Let's get into the action yesterday, up against our former manager. Dave, the team, we recalled Meerholtz from his loan. He didn't make the bench, but we did. I think the only change was McCrory came in for Sykes. The team sort of picks itself at the moment with Zach in midfield. We thought we were going to be without Randall at one point, but there we go. What did you
Yeah,
think?
no, exactly. The starting 11 is very much the starting 11. I was very interested to hear the pre-match interviews as to why Cornet wasn't on the bench, and it seems it was injury related, if we are to believe that's the truth. It's interesting, we've got 3 academy players on the bench now. The question is, at what point do they come in? But in terms of the starting 11, the question is always the wing-backs. And the game before the international break, where they've been well rested, that's the starting 11. No problem with that. If he'd have gone Sykes over McCrory, that's okay. If he'd have gone McCrory on the left, that's okay as well. But the core of it, I think anybody could have written it down. So I was perfectly content with it, as I think everybody would have been.
Yeah, you concur with that view, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, there was little option really. It was either Sykes and McCrory on the right hand side, and Neto Borges, who's is a left-footed player, and the left wing back role. It seemed like a good decision. So yeah, that's all they could pick really. Viner and Randall. It's the holding midfielders.
Tom, on the bench, a face we haven't seen so far this season, Max O'Leary. No place for Joe Lumley. Joanna's got to be looking to get a loan. How long was the contract that Joe Lumley signed for us? Got to be 3 years, I would have thought, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know. I can have a look while we're live.
Yeah, but Max getting on the bench. Good to see him back there, though, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but well, he's got a year left on his contract as well. He's second fiddle now to a keeper that fully deserves his place in the team. I'm sure we'll talk. He was wonderful yesterday. Was Vitek? Yeah, I mean, he's back up now, isn't he?
Yeah, and as you say, it was not even a year. He's out of contract in the summer.
There you go. Yeah.
The referee was Tom Neal from Norfolk. Apparently, I didn't know that. But he didn't show any bias. Mark, how did you feel going into the game, coming up against Liam Manning? He's still in a job as we were recording this at 9 o'clock on Sunday morning, but that's 6 home defeats in a row now in all competitions, 5 in the league, 1 in the cup. He's got to be on very thin ice at the moment, along with his young chief executive, the guy Napper. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no sentiment in football. You usually don't get very long. To lose 5, your first 5 home league games is absolutely awful. But you expect them to have a bit of fire in their belly. You think by the law of averages they were going to win at home at some point. They showed a lot of intent early on, but they just faded throughout the match until they were just playing the ball around aimlessly. The crowd reflected what was on the pitch. You've got probably the outstanding striker in Josh Sargent up front, although he's lost the likes of Borjas, Sainz and Marcelino Núñez to supply the passes. And it really seemed like a wasted opportunity for Norwich. They got a lot of good individual players, but team-wise, they were very poor.
Yeah. Dave, Sargent, we don't talk too much about players, but he's, I'd say, the last of their star men. He looked like a man lost out there, lone striker up front, which is the way that Manning plays. But he didn't look like the 20 million player that we are led to believe he's worth.
Service. If you're not getting the right kind of service, there aren't many strikers that can literally set themselves up and score the goals. He was making the runs. He was a threat in behind occasionally when he was found. You also have to give credit to the way that we set up the 2 Robs at the back. I wouldn't say quite bullied him, but marshaled him very well through the game. I always felt like there was an element of a threat there, but ultimately Norwich as a team were well contained. We didn't give them the balls they were looking for too often. And realistically speaking, it doesn't matter what kind of striker you are. If you aren't getting the right kind of service, you aren't going to score goals.
No, simple as that. Let's get into the match action. Tom, very early on, were there valid appeals for a penalty when McCrory went over?
Yeah, somewhat. The start of the game was so frantic for us. I think we had the ball in their box twice within the first 60 seconds of the game. And obviously that penalty appeal was one of them. To be honest, I haven't watched it back and it was too frantic at the time for me to actually get a view on it. I don't know what the rest of you think.
No,
There was a
I
huge
haven't
shout,
watched it
but I'm
back.
not sure.
I haven't watched it back either. Have you seen it, Dave? The first minute penalty?
You know, I meant to watch the beginning this morning for that moment, and I haven't seen it. So I literally can't even process the moment. I don't recall the penalty incident. I should, but I don't remember the.
I got a feeling. Well, my eyes had been taken. You didn't see it, Mark, did you?
I think he was sort of wrestled, but it's got to be very clear and obvious in the Championship. What I remember is they went straight back up the other end. The ball was played behind Neto Borges. The Jorisek to run on to, and Atkinson got back and made a brilliant last-ditch tackle for a corner.
I saw. Well, that was going to be my next point, Mark, and you brought it in well there because he stretched and he went. I thought he'd gone down injured with that, didn't you? And I thought, here we go.
Yeah. Every time Atkinson goes down, everybody holds their breath.
But it was a real standard tackle. You know, it's one of those at the start where you're the home side, you're up, you're running in, and it just stamps out the opportunity instantly, and it's everything that Atkinson is about, really.
Yeah, it's a great tackle, and he's a big man, Atkinson, and he's got quite a long body, and he doesn't look like he's moving quick, but he matched that guy stride for stride going down there, didn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he's really made our defence look class since he's come back, and I think. Bar the games at home, I mean, our away record, I think we've only conceded about 4 goals away from home in 5 games this season. We've been very good.
Undefeated.
Undefeated, yeah.
We had a chance on the 5th minute, Tom. Twiney into the side netting. I know it's early on, but let's talk about Twiney, who went off later on in the game. I put on X yesterday, take away the free kicks, and you got a guy who's not contributing much. And yesterday I thought was a case in point. He's
a good worker. He I think completely buys into the Struber system. But I'm left always wanting a little bit more from him on the ball. I think that's one comment I would have. And at times he wasn't a total frustrating watch. I did a tweet saying he was frustrating to watch at times yesterday because he was going over a little bit too easily before we scored our first goal, complaining at the refs a couple of times. He frustrated me a little bit when he was on the ball today. But I think he might also benefit from having competition on the bench for his spot as well. And that's something that he doesn't have. I think his place in the team, he's going to start every game, isn't he? I don't think there's competition for him. So there's less motivation, I think, to reach his peak.
I think, Mr. P, you're being too harsh. I think you're being too harsh to say he contributes nothing. He was in that game yesterday. First of all, the off-the-ball work is not the same as previous seasons. He's acting in all the pressing, when to see it. He's part of the trigger, in my opinion. If you look when we set up, he's always there when he's the first man to go. He's involved in everything. Where I see your point and where the frustration comes in is that on the ball, it doesn't feel like he's as effective as it should be. There's one incident with Borges when he hits the post where he doesn't pass the ball early enough and then he passes the ball too early. The decision making just isn't quite right, or the body position is just a little bit off at the moment. And sometimes that happens with the number 10. And as we go into the game, that's the kind of game yesterday where Twine coming off after 65, 70 minutes is the right sub. Unfortunately, we do have a lack of options on the bench, but I think you're being too harsh with Twine at home.
I'm being too harsh. I'll hold my hands up.
Mark, am I
being harsh?
David, I think he should be doing a lot more for a player who started the season so strongly. Just to go back on my point, we've only conceded 2 goals in 5 away league games, which is amazing form, isn't it, really, considering the points that we dropped at home. But yeah, I think he should be doing a lot more. When he looks up, he should be releasing the ball earlier. His passing should be a lot sharper, and he should be on the end of things. I think the game against Sheffield United and Sheffield Wednesday promised a lot more. And at times against Derby, when he got that goal with that pass in from Knight, it promised so much more. But I think in those last 5 games, those previous 4 games when our form dropped off, coincidentally, it was it also reflected Twine's form, being substituted at Ashton Gate a couple of times. And he looked quite poor. So some things he can do well, but if we're going to think about him is somebody who can score nice free kicks, then he's overrated. He needs to do better.
Yeah, no,
Do you think he's that though,
no.
Mark? Do you think he's just about free kicks? Did you not
No,
see more from him
what
yesterday?
I'm saying is he should be contributing a lot more. If you look at transfer fees, he's our marquee signing. He should be contributing a lot more, just like he did against Sheffield Wednesday United and against Derby. He started the season really strongly, but his form has just dropped off. And yesterday, it wasn't quite there again. He needs to release the ball earlier. He's got a good brain, good eye. He can shoot early. He needs to be doing more. He needs to justify his fee in a team where transfer fees are at a premium. He needs to justify his fee right now and knuckle down. No sentiment with him, unfortunately.
Here we go. Now, as you know, we're part of the TalkSport fan network, and we have to read adverts now. This is where they get me to script them. So please bear with me on this. Listen up, Ashton Gate faithful. Don't miss Bristol City's game against Southampton on Tuesday, live on Sky Sports with Now. Don't miss a moment. You can stream Sky Sports on Now flexibly, like Bristol City versus Southampton on Tuesday. Search nowtv.com.
Mastery.
I'm buying it straight away.
That one,
literary genius.
Oh, that was good. I got that. Look, see, it's my little script from TalkSport. Anyway, Borges, Tom, worst corner I've ever seen a player take for Bristol City. I mean, he got just before that, he'd been fouled and Mehmeti had a free kick, which got headed behind. But that corner, but his overall performance, is he growing into that left wing back spot?
Yeah, I was thinking about what I could say about Borges on this. It's almost like one man's trash is another man's treasure, right? I mean, Rob Edwards clearly didn't fancy him, and well, yeah, I think he's done really well at left wing back. And I personally, I still don't think it's his best position. I think he's probably best as a left in a 4 or left of a 3, to be honest. But yeah, he's been fantastic. And almost, I can't remember, it was very shortly after that terrible corner, he cut inside with his right foot and hit the post. So he had a left wing back inside with his right foot, hitting the post with a really good effort. So.
Yeah, no, that was, and it did hit the post, because when you saw the camera from behind the goal, I mean, that was so close to going in, really. If it had a little bit more whip on it. Mark, you're nodding in agreement. Borges, he looked a bit hesitant in the very first time he came on. Then he put that cross in the other week, which was headed in by Reece. But yesterday, that corner apart, we're not missing Cam as much as we thought we might, yeah?
No, I mean, he certainly gives us balance on the left, and that allows McCrory to play on the right. The strange thing, McCrory hasn't necessarily played as well as a right wing back as he does on the left, but Borges looks strong and capable. I think he could still link up a little bit better, and that's down to Scott Twine bringing him into the play as the number 10 on the left side. But yeah, a good signing for the rest of the season, makes us look a lot stronger, definitely.
Dave, Borges proving his worth.
I mean, I would say so. He had 3 corners yesterday where they were trying to put it and pressurize the keeper. One of them was the worst one I've ever seen. The second one didn't clear the front man, and the second one was 2 on the keeper that he claimed it easily. So I'm not sure that's necessarily something you would progress with, shall we say. But in terms of his performance on the pitch, it's refreshing to have a left-sided player that has a left foot. The balance on the pitch, the attacks down the left-hand side, more danger coming from that side, which frees up everybody else in a different way. It's another way to beat a team. And I think he's been a really good addition. As you said, he starts a little bit nervously, but with every game that passes, he's coming into his own. And yesterday, you felt he looked composed and elegant on the ball. You trust him as a fan. And yeah, I thought he played. I thought he was more than decent yesterday.
They weren't. Sorry, Mark, go on.
Yeah, he's certainly a big unit, but he does look elegant. Sort of glides over the pitch, and I think he was just subject to a few formation tweaks at Middlesbrough and under Rob Edwards. I mean, I think he made 37 appearances for Borough last season, which isn't too shabby at all. And we've got a valid, an excellent championship ready player. Who will give Cam Pring a run for his money when he's finally fit.
And that when he's finally fit being the operative word. They weren't without their attempts on goal. I can't think it was. It might have been you put it in one of your posts, Dave, about when we did get players signed up on contracts, and was it you questioning? Okay, we re-signed Tanner, but whoopee-doo type of thing, yeah? Or was that somebody else?
No, what I put is that it's just the feeling of why are we re-signing players? Where is it coming from? And it started with Armstrong and Fally. What was their purpose of the signing? If you're going to take an expensive, because they weren't cheap, an expensive punt, what's the principles behind it? Armstrong, you see the core abilities, but it can't finish. It doesn't make sense. Fally, why would you do it? There's a player in there, but it only works in a 2, and we haven't played 2 for quite some time. It doesn't make sense. With Tanner, we're in a 3. If we're going to play 4 going forward in the season, you could say, oh, okay, I get it. Because yesterday was one of his better performances, and he played at times much more like a fullback. He has the core skills of doing the Viner stuff, but as a right centre-back, he's just not the answer. You know, he's the one that can often be outdone with the headers. You know, the weak points yesterday often came from a Tanner mistake, and I think he played well yesterday.
That's why I raised the point there, Dave, and so you've covered that off. It was on 28 minutes, and it created their first. Excuse me. It created Norwich's first real chance on goal because he got muscled off the ball. He was weak in the challenge, and Sargent moved forward, and that brought the first. Save of the first of a trio of, I'll call it, match-saving saves. I mean, what did you think, Tom, yesterday of Tanner? And do you recall that incident where he seemed to get lost off the ball in the middle of the park, and that created Norwich's first chance?
Yeah, I don't recall the chance very much, but I just echo what you said about Tanner. Really, he's a sub, isn't he, in this squad? He is a bench player that will fill in when we need him. That's his role. And at the moment, we need him to fill in at right centre back, don't we? But I'd like Viner back there as soon as possible.
Can I just emphasise, though, yesterday on the ball, he was much improved. If you see that version of Tanner on the ball, that's what you want every time. Can you do that? Because every time he got it, he was looking to drive as though his right back instinct kicked in. And that's what you want. You want somebody pushing forward, looking for the passes. The issue is on the defensive side, again, as a right back, he's a great one-on-one marker. But other teams, their main striker, their big man, are every single time going to pull off onto Tanner. And we saw the answer to that in the playoffs last season. And that's why, in terms of the contract, it's, okay, what's your plan here? Why have you got Tanner? Are you looking to develop and improve the squad? I don't see it with that re-signing. I think it could have been better spent elsewhere. And that's the issue of making it up. And when you put everything together with you, with Armstrong, with Fally, with that Tanner, where's the squad makeup? And that's where we're having issues right now. You can't say that those things have developed the side. And that, for me, is the frustration of them making it up as they go along.
Mark, your thoughts on Tanner and what Dave and Tom said?
I think our back three looked stronger when we had Dickie, Atkinson and Viner in there. The move he made against Derby to counter their aerial threat, although that went pear-shaped at the end because of McCrory's mistake at the back post. But I think he played well in the opening game against Sheffield United against Tyrese Campbell. But yeah, he certainly dropped off. I mean, the mistake that he made against QPR, I think he's a class right back in this league, but as a right centre back, not as good. I just don't think he manages his position, and he's prone to rickets, which he's shown in the home games this season. So if once we get once we get Bird back, Bird's likely back before night. I think, according to some of Struber's comments in his press conferences this week, I would move Zach Viner back there and go with a more robust back three, because we're looking Can we just pause the game there a second? Because I just want to ask Mark, would you move Viner? Have you not enjoyed what you've seen from him in centre midfield? Like yesterday, for example, some of his passing range was exquisite. He looked the part yesterday. He looked composed. Is the juice worth the squeeze of having him in centre midfield?
Tom.
I'm gonna, yes. Yeah. I just after that analogy, I forgot my name.
Right. Tom,
Yes,
Tom,
the
Tom.
juice is definitely worth a squeeze. Yeah, I'm moving back in defence. I think he's a better defender as a central midfielder, but he's done really adequately there. And yes, his passing range is pretty good, and he's a strong player. I think he played there for Aberdeen, but no, I go back to the more robust back three with Viner, Dickey, and Atkinson, and put square and square holes.
Well, and don't forget we got McNally. Don't forget we got McNally.
Yeah, not till about February though, David. So we got quite a wait, haven't we? Unfortunately,
we got a long way. But a good player to be like another signing when he comes back.
Oh God, yeah, he was our best defender last season until his injury.
He was. A couple of saves from after that Sargent save, Vitek save from Schlupp. It was more of a lazy lob that almost crept in there. Another save from Sargent, but it was all square at half time. Tom, half time. All square, Norwich hadn't really offered much other than those little flurries of chances there. Were you feeling we've weathered the storm?
I don't know if weathered the storm is the right. I was actually a little bit worried because going into the game, I thought we needed an early goal to rock the crowd there, and that would be our route to winning the game. So for it to be half time and 0-0, I must admit I was a little bit worried just knowing what we had coming off the bench. But I do think it's fair to say we had the chances, the better share of chances, and definitely could have been ahead at half time.
Dave, no.
More than anything for me, then that first half had Manning fingerprints all over it. If you judge that game on simply watching a game of football as neutral, you would be like, wow, that's boring. But in reality, if you look a bit deeper, we were actively trying to win the game at all times. We might not have created anything clear, but every time we got the ball, it was 1, 2, 3 passes looking for an opportunity. The will to win was there the whole game. And when we get to the goal later, there is a real point which really emphasizes that we were not looking for a draw at any point yesterday. And at halftime, I felt comfortable. It was like, this is what Norwich have got to offer. Our own players have seen this many times. We've seen this story. Now go win the game in the second half.
Mm-hmm. Tom, you mentioned quite a lot of offsides in that first half. I seem to when City were attacking that end to our right, as you look at it on screen, that showed the point that Dave's been making, that we were looking to take to the game to them all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Mehmeti got caught 2 or 3 times, but it can be frustrating at times. But again, it also shows the intent. Like it's the Struber philosophy, right? Try and win every game and score as well. Yeah, try and score a goal as often as possible, basically, and play direct.
Yeah, Mark, offsides. Is that indicative of us pushing the game forward?
Yeah, I think looking to get the ball forward at the earliest opportunity. I think sometimes Mehmeti could look at the line, read the line better, because you can see this high line that Norwich are playing towards the halfway line. He's able to look along it, and he could hold his run by going in and out. I think there was a time at the end of the first half where he's coming back from an offside position before the next phase of play, and he just needs to mind that a little bit better. But it shows the value of Mehmeti really as a false 10. He was really our focal point in the first half in terms of trying to get the ball in behind, and he's the player who usually gets the most goal scoring opportunities during a match. If he could have scored a couple of goals yesterday if he'd have taken his chances.
Well, I've got that. If we move into the second half, I mean, Norwich were pretty passive. I mean, early doors, Vitek did the first of his second half good saves. I think it was from Marcondes. Then we had McCrory having a shot save, Viner having a shot save, and then just before the goal, Mehmeti, just his slowness sometimes. It's why he will not end up playing Premier League football, because he over-elaborates it a little bit. And Tom, Viner and Mehmeti, we now know that they've both been offered contract. Viner in particular, when you saw that camera on him, there was a clip on YouTube at the end of the game when they're taking the adulation of the fans. Viner, I still think he wants to be at the club, and it's probably his agent angling for a move away. But he's going to walk for nothing in the summer, isn't he? Yeah,
it's going to be a crime if Zach Viner goes for free in the summer. That's going to be it's going to be a really sad day if that happens. And I agree with you. I think he also wants to be at the club. In fact, I've seen him walking around the harbour and stuff a couple of times. So I live near there in Bristol. He clearly likes the city, being out and about and stuff. So I just hope he stays, but I'm not overly convinced. I don't know if we can compete with other Championship clubs in terms of the salaries that they'll offer him.
You mean like Wrexham?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dave,
money
you
talks,
wanted
unfortunately,
to make
didn't
a
it?
point. You just put on the private chat there. Second yellow. Tell me about that.
Yeah, you missed a couple of moments yesterday. First of all, just before you got us slightly ahead, there was the Twine incident where he went down too easily. We've got to the point with Twine where watching the game, you have no idea if it's a foul or not because he goes down too easily. So how can the ref give it? And then there was the Borges penalty incident. I was just wondering what you guys thought of that, which leads into the Viner tackle, which was probably a second yellow. What did you guys make of those particular two incidents? Do you think it should have been a penalty? And do you think Viner's was a second yellow or not? Mr. P, what did you think?
I'll pass on that because I wasn't reading your notes and I haven't got mine here. So I'll bow to the other guy's judgment on that or opinions.
I don't remember the penalty shout, which probably says it all, really, that I don't necessarily think it was key enough. But I did wince after the Viner tackle because I was like, oh, I've seen those given. Please don't send him off. And
yeah, personally, I felt like he felt like maybe the Borges one was 50-50 and went for caution. So the Viner one decided, I'm not going to give that because it evens it up. And apparently that's what referees do, if you hear a few interviews. So that smacked of that to me. To bring it back to what you were saying, my faith that he will sign a new contract is exactly 0%. From the fans forum, when they're like, we've offered them new contracts and just, that was it. And now it's just, why would you do it? At the very minimum, if you were him, you would get to the end of the season and see the offers out there and maybe stay at the club. But the way he is playing, the way he is showing his range of flexibility of formations, it's in his best interest to wait until the end of the season. Football's not like 15 years ago where an injury could, or even 30 years ago where one injury could do your career. Players almost always come back. So if I was him, at the very minimum, I'd be waiting to see what offers are out there. I just would.
All right, just to interject there then, since we're talking about contracts, what do we make of Rob Dickey's signing? Because if you add Rob Dickey to Tanner and Pring, is that players that think that, I'll ask you this first, Mark, do you think the players that have re-signed contracts, it's a measure of their lack of ambition, lack of greed, knowing that they're probably getting as good as they can get from Bristol City? Mark?
I think it's players' their worth. I mean, players are going to know their worth. They're going to know from agents exactly how much they're worth and what the opportunities are elsewhere based on their form. So I think money talks at the end of the day. If players are at the end of their contract, like Anis Mehmeti and Zach Viner, and they can get better deals elsewhere, they'll go. If they think they're going to get first team football, if the club is going to invest money back onto the pitch, and they are believing in a project, then they'll move on. It's as simple as that. Like I said, there's no sentiment, and money talks and players walk.
Tom? I mean, if Zach Viner's worth 25k a week allegedly at Wrexham, you're Cam Pring, you've signed a contract that's been presented, and this is the same Cam Pring that 18 months ago, after his displays against West Ham in the FA Cup, was being heralded as, Premier League bound. Yet here he is accepting a contract from Bristol City. He's not even bothered to see what else is out there.
Yeah, it's an interesting one on Pring, isn't it? Because I'd say of the three, he's probably the one that other clubs would have the most interest in. And then just going back to Dickey, I think in the nicest, I don't know if it's going to be controversial to say, but I think Bristol City is almost the perfect level of club for Rob Dickey, really. I don't see him being necessarily scouted by clubs higher than us. And the clubs lower than us in the league would probably be happy to have him. So I think we're of that level that suits Rob Dickey perfectly, I think.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a lack of ambition. I think every football player is different. If you look in Viner's case, he's been here for a very, very long time. And sometimes players want to try something new and the money helps. But sometimes you want to find out who you are as a person. They're not just robots. And sometimes it's about more than I've been here forever. You can clearly see Viner's passion, but it goes deeper than that. In terms of Dickey, the way he spoke at the fans forum, he came across very classy. It might just be that he's happy here. It feeds into what Tom's just said. Like, he's happy at the club. He's happy in his family situation. He's He's playing good football. He's a very good player for us, and he's happy with his situation and doesn't feel that need to go on because he's happy. Every player is unique, and his being where he is going into the contract isn't a surprise. Viner, it's been left too long. I don't blame him for waiting. But Dickie's signing on his context, it makes sense. But I don't think it's because of a lack of ambition.
And it's interesting you say about players being here a long time, because we've only got to go back, 15 years or so. Lewis Carey and Scott Murray both left Bristol City for better opportunities. And in both cases, they came back, didn't they? Because the grass wasn't always greener, but your bank balance obviously is very important these days. Sykes had come on from Macquarie. I think Lewis Carey, who's match analysis during the game, is very good, I have to say, on Robin's TV. Sykes on from Macquarie, who'd been booked for the umpteenth time. On comes Sykes. He set up that chance for Mehmeti, but then the goal, each of you, how did you see it? Start first with you, Tom. It was coming almost, wasn't it? Because we've been buzzing in their area. How did you see the goal?
Yeah, goal was coming. Obviously, it was a great bit of individual play from Mehmeti to nutmeg their fullback. And then the cross was decent. I don't think, the intended target of the cross was definitely not Mark Sykes. I just think the Norwich defending was fairly soft to let the ball run that far through the box as it did. And yeah, Sykes, I think, Rob Atkinson was in the box as well. So his run must have caused absolute chaos for that Norwich defense.
Yeah, Rob Atkinson's run caused the chaos at the far post, but there was a touch from Reece, wasn't there, Dave? The little header?
I think there was a slight touch. I'm not sure if he's been given an official assist yet, but for me it should be. But just to take you back about a minute in the play, imagine that you're away from home, you're 0-0, the crowd is quiet. You've just won a free kick. You've got a choice to make. In a typical away performance, you would slow the game down, take your time, ease your way back in. We win the free kick. The ball's about 10 yards away. Randall runs after the ball, runs back to the spot, puts it down, passes it to Anis. That's the mentality that lets you go and win a game. If you're not actively searching to win, you don't create that chance. So we made our own, some people say that crossing is luck. It's not. It was a good delivery from Anis. Again, we talk about his part to play. It was a dangerous ball, but it comes from the intent of Randall, which comes from Struber and his desire to go and win football matches and never sit off. So to me, it's kudos all round. And Sykes, the man of the moment, steps up.
Yeah, Mark, your thoughts on the goal?
It's a great cross from Anis Mehmeti. Turns his defender by the left corner flag. A great flat cross, ideal for a centre forward like Emil Reece-Jacobson. He heads the ball down through Jack Stacey's left with Rob Atkinson bearing down on him. And there's Mark Sykes at the far post, hits the ball down into the ground over Kovacic. 1-0, job done. I mean, Mark Sykes is win back, but sometimes he can play as a number 10. Remember that goal he got against Sheffield United, and then the excellent opening goal he got against Norwich, I think, in one of the following games. The guy is a quality finisher, and he showed it there.
I am absolutely sure that if needs must or the situation comes, he would be a fantastic second striker. In the post-match interview, he referred to that as a tap-in. That's not a tap-in. The way he referred to it, it's a tap-in. It's like,
not
okay.
Here we are, guys. We're talking about another player that is out of contract in the summer. He's an Irish international. We've talked about a player. You say you can play as a striker. Could he play in the role that Twine plays in? Even
I think so. He could play in a number 10 role. If you you could play him as a number 10 with Macquarie. Is right wing back. But the trouble is, of course, you've got somebody like Macquarie who's quite robust, who's likely to get booked quite regularly, and will probably tot up the 5 in the next few weeks. So it's ideal to rotate those two, and I would start Sykes against Southampton on Tuesday. But he could play in a number 10. He's clever enough player to play in that role, and he's clever enough to play off of the number 9 as well. And we're lucky to have him. His injury last season really cost us in the playoffs, no question.
I don't think we've seen the best of him. I'm going to say I don't think we've seen the best of him this season. Probably something to do with that injury. It just feels like he's just been off of it slightly, and hopefully, the goal builds confidence, and we see the absolute best of Mark Sykes. Because when he's on fire, He is a man of moments, and he really understands. He really brings so much to the side.
And he's one of those players, as I see it, that if we're going to be, if there's a level that we can afford to go out and buy players at, and let's say this is this 2 or 3 million level, then Sykes, if we can't throw money around like confetti, but if giving Sykes a contract to keep him around is worth it than taking a punt. Would you agree with that, Tom? That Sykes, in an ideal world, you go out and replace Sykes with, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a player that's the next level up. Well, we're not in that game. So for the level we're at, he's good. And we abused him last summer, allegedly, that's summer 24, by taking up our option on the initial terms that he had. And if rumour has it is true, Adam Murphy, whatever his name is, he came across from Ireland, hasn't kicked a ball in anger for the first team, is earning the same as Mark Sykes, for goodness sake. We should sign him.
Yeah, everything you said there is true. I mean, I don't think we've seen, this is the start of it, I hope, but I don't think we've seen the best of him, probably because he hasn't had enough minutes, really, I guess, because he's obviously been playing second fiddle in that position at times to McCrory. And I think, again, he's one of the players that can play in those number 10 positions. And I think Scott Twine, in particular, could benefit from a little bit of competition from Mark Sykes for that position, to be completely honest. And going into this season, I've always felt Mark Sykes is one of our best players.
Yeah, and when you look at the players that are coming back, because somebody said none of the players that are out injured are strikers. So when the players come back, the players that are out injured defend. Well, McNally's the only defender. Well, and Pring. But let's look in the middle of the park. When Bird, Stokes, Williams, and Knight are all back, right? Twine, it's Twine or Mehmeti's positions are a threat as much as anything else. And special word for Adam Randall. Rumours during the week that he was injured, but I thought he had a storming game yesterday. Like you say, Dave, always eager, always on the go. Very, very good player. And I have to say that if we lost Knight, I would feel it as a loss, but not the loss that it could have been, because we've got Adam Randall in that engine room part of it.
What you just said there about Randall, I don't feel like I felt like his standard was slightly lower yesterday. He was hot and cold. He did some good things. He was slightly off it in others, some loose passing. But what he brings is energy. That energy just doesn't drop, and it's infectious on everyone else. And the beauty of yesterday's performance is that it wasn't the peak of Struber. It wasn't the peak of the way that we've seen us able to play. Yet it was functional, it was good, and it was entertaining. And as a football fan, as a City fan, that's exactly what you want to see. And if that's the worst of Randall yesterday, it just shows you his standards so far. Because I did think he didn't have his greatest game yesterday. I thought he was hot and cold. But he still did enough that you're like, that's a player, Yeah.
Mark, Sinclair Armstrong, I thought it was Dele Adebola coming on for a minute, because he looked like he'd shaved all his hair off. He came on, he got a 15-minute cameo. I thought he did okay. He ran the channels through, set up Mehmeti, who miscontrolled the ball for a good chance. But Sinclair, when he came on, did what we wanted in that time frame.
Yeah, I think the only thing he did wrong, he did a sort of push and run, didn't he? Where I think he tried to bulldoze his way through defenders and then tripped over his own feet. But he made that chance from Mehmeti, and Mehmeti should have really hit it first time instead of killing the ball and then shooting with a packed box. But yeah, I think he did okay. But remember, where Sinclair's concerned, we're setting a really low bar. What Sinclair doesn't do in tight games is press. He tends to drift, and I think it was said against QPR. People spotted the fact that he wasn't chasing back, and Struber was screaming at him from the sidelines. So that's something he needs to add to his game. I mean, forwards need to press as much as defenders and midfield players. You defend as a team and you attack as a team. So he needs to contribute more. But yeah, I think he did okay. When he gets the ball behind, he's stronger as an ox, and he can hold the ball up. I think he did that in the closing stages yesterday.
Tom, you agree with that, I would imagine?
Yeah. I think it was one of his better cameos he's had for us. I enjoyed his new haircut as well, bald Sinclair Armstrong on a redemption arc, which I'm hoping is going to happen. I think towards the end of the game as well, he ran the ball into the corner, which was, to me, celebrated almost as much as the goal as when he did that to waste some time. So as cameos go for Armstrong, I think he had one of his better ones yesterday. That's probably how I'll leave it.
I slightly disagree.
He's not got a great. Sorry, Dave.
I don't think he was particularly great yesterday. He did two things very well. He set up the chance, and he won the free kick at the end. And as you should, our expectations of a footballer are like, oh, Armstrong won a free kick. If anybody else did that, it's just part of playing football. But he makes me so nervous. Like you see him setting up in terms of his defensive position and the press, and he's looking around so focused on where he should be stood. He's missed the fact that the ball's gone right next to him, and he could have got there. He ran to the corner. I'm thinking, right, great, we've gone to the corner, keep it in the corner. And he passes it out to the middle of the pitch to Viner. He makes me nervous all the time on the ball. To me, it feels like he's a headless chicken that's constantly making decisions that can go against the side. And yesterday was made perfectly for him. But what we're essentially saying is, because the game was spread and Armstrong occasionally got the ball in acres of space, he played well. But as a micro performance in the little moments of the match, I really didn't see it yesterday. To me, it just felt like a player that doesn't know what to do at certain moments. And the one thing that he's good at,
and a player who was lying flat on his back on the pitch after 90 minutes, as if he played the full 90. So I think it's a stamina and a concentration issue with him. Shout out here for Ben Olden, who's put a comment in the text feed here. Ben Olden is a Norwich fan. He said, thought you guys deserved the win as predicted. We really are in the mud. Your keeper had a terrific game. Thought Sinclair was used wisely also. And he said, should imagine it was quite amusing to hear the boos, Manning out chants and sack the board. Maybe. And Ben's also put in here, he has a 0-0 style of play and a £60 million squad. That's why he went, Liam Manning. You took the easy option. You talk about you've had to fight for everything in your life. Why didn't you fight and see if you can improve Bristol City this season? It's not just his fault, but he's not getting the best out of the team. 6 losses at home is a record. Him along with others have to go. What they're talking about there is Ben Napper, if you look at his record, that is like Sean Gilhespie becoming chief executive of Bristol City. He was just an analyst and a loans manager for Arsenal. But there we go. Save of the game. Tom, 83 minutes, Cernak cross. Stacey hits the ball clean, but Vitek used that 6'3" frame to go to his left and keep it out. Good save.
Yeah, good save. I don't think he was. I don't want to discredit him because he was really good yesterday, but I don't think it was an amazing save. It was just a good, solid save to keep us in the game. Well, to keep us ahead, I think. I do. He was great, but I don't think he necessarily had a mega save to make today, like we've seen him in previous games.
Okay,
that would be my thoughts.
Okay, now maybe I bigged him up too much. Mark, was that a routine save?
I think, it was for Vitek. He makes that look easy, and he's got good, strong hands. So I mean, we saw Max O'Leary spoon, goals, soft hand, especially against Middlesbrough, and Tommy Conway scored. And I think he gave one to Andy Vyman as well when he against Blackburn, maybe. So yeah, I mean, he's a keeper who's Premiership class, really. So hopefully, Man United won't activate this recall clause in January, and we keep him for a whole season because he's worth a few goals saved. And now I think that's his 4th clean sheet in 10 games. Excellent.
Dave, you got a point?
I feel like, first of all, it was a good but should save. But I also feel, and I really hope this is not a commentator's curse, but he's also a little bit lucky. Like he saves the ball and it rebounds into the middle of the 6-yard box and it goes straight to a City defender. And sometimes you have to be good and lucky. And he makes his own luck in those ways. He gets it down, he gets it out, and it goes to a City defender. And he gets those things going his way. And sometimes because you are a good goalkeeper, and by his standards, that is a good but should save, the little bits of luck tend to go your way. And sometimes with Max, actually, they didn't go his way. He'd make the save and it would rebound straight to the player. You know, Vitek seems to have that momentum on his side.
But that's what you talk about, lucky managers and lucky things, you know, and if things keep going that way, who knows what we could achieve this season. 60% possession for Norwich yesterday, 40 for us. I think the key thing showing our attacking intent, 28 touches we had in the box compared to their 17. So that's pretty decent. But now we're into this period of the season where the games come in thick and fast. And next up, at Ashton Gate on Tuesday, it is Southampton, led by football manager, and I mean that from the game perspective. Was it him? Was it him that was the football manager guy? Will Still didn't have a coaching qualification, and whichever French club he was managing, they used to pay the 25,000 euros compensation every game for him. Not going great for him at Southampton, Tom, so far, is it, for Will Still?
No, and I just wonder for him how many fingers can be pointed at him directly, or the players. I don't really know enough about Southampton to comment too much. But it's a game on Tuesday. We should be winning. I think definitely the expectation should be a win. I think.
You expecting a win Tuesday, Mark?
I'm surprised by the fact they've only won 2 games. I mean, if you should have seen the sitter that they missed at the end of the game yesterday. They should be doing a lot better. It's an ex-Premier League club, who went straight back up, although they went straight back down this season. 2 wins, 6 draws, and two defeats. I think it is. Should be doing far better than that. Good chance for us to win, but I think we need to get an early goal and find a way of winning at home that we haven't that we seem to have cracked away with 3 away wins, and when we only managed 4 away all last season. So it'll be a big crowd on Tuesday, and we got to win that game to get some momentum to go forward, to get the Brummies. When we got the Brummies coming down on the following Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, Dave, 2 games. I mean, I remember when we beat Southampton. What was it? The last time we played them, we ended their unbeaten run, and I mean, certainly Brian Tinian was going on as though that was the standout game of that season, which maybe it was, but they're finding life a little bit difficult to adjust. I was just looking through their lineup. There's a few players there that I know, but we want to don't care what order we get them in, but 4 points from the next 2 home games is we'd be well pleased with that, wouldn't we?
Well, the thing is, I would very rarely say I expect to win a game of football in the Championship. It's too difficult, and there are too many swings and surprises. When I look at yesterday, how well does it prepare us going forward? We made 2 subs yesterday. In a league where you can make 5, we made 2. We have a squad that is short, as we've mentioned many, many times. My concern is, how do we manage these lot of games going forward? Because come Saturday, we know that full time or on Sunday morning, we're going to be talking about tired legs. And if it's not then, it's the next batch of 3. We do not want to be in a situation where we're talking about it was a game too far. There needs to be something that happens. And would you be happy with the same starting 11 going into the next game, Mr. P? If you saw the same starting 11 as yesterday, or would you expect maybe 1 rotation at wing back and Sykes comes in from Macquarie? Or are you happy just to say, right, go again, guys, same again?
That's a good question. I think if you look at players that could come in, and again, it's tired legs, but you've got options with you at left wing back in place of Borges, but he doesn't look like he looked like he got plenty of fuel in the tank. Roberts is available to come on, but then when you look at Armstrong, Morris, and Mayulu and Yeboah as other outfield players, there's not a great deal. I think you can rotate in games, but you talk about this coming week, it's when we get to the tail end of this batch of 5, where we play Saturday, Tuesday, Friday, because Watford's on. That's really when the tired legs are going to have to play. So right here, right now, we've just had an international break. We're into a routine Saturday, Tuesday. I think he'll stick with the same lineup. Tom, would you agree with that? I don't think there's much else he can do.
Yeah, I think Mark's had his hand up as well, so I don't want. I'll give way to him if he wanted to say something.
Go on, Mark.
Yeah, I'd go for something different, which I sort of talked about between the lines. If you want to go out there with attacking intent, I'd drop Twine to the bench and put Sykes in his place and play McCrory his right wing back still, because I think then you've got some quality at number 10 and a guy that can score goals.
That's a big brave move to drop Twine. Not going to happen, Tom. Really, is it?
No, I predict we'll play the same 11, but I think the thing to note, I think, on Tuesday is how many substitutions do we make and when do we make them? Like, as Dave correctly pointed out, we made 2 yesterday. The legs are going to be fresh after the international break. I don't think any of our players that played yesterday were away for international break. They all actually had a break. So I don't think we necessarily need to change the 11, but we do need to hopefully get ourselves into a position in the game where we can make the early subs. But it always goes back to who have we got to bring on? There are some positions where there are the rotation options, but yeah, I mean, up front, if we're struggling in the game, we're not winning, there's nothing really, is there?
Well, this is the key point. Would you rather see him just keep putting the same side out, because you know the end story, whether it's on Saturday, where it gets towards next week, is they look tired today. I don't know, it's just off, and it costs you 2 games because your side's exhausted. Or would you rather see him get in front of it and make those changes when we don't need to? Because common sense would say, you know what, Tuesday, don't change anything, keep going. But eventually, you know, it catches up with you. Personally, I think he will stick with it because it's so soon after the international break. But it's something to be aware of, maybe for next week on Saturday, maybe bringing Sykes in, resting someone.
Then they've got, because it goes sort of Tuesday, Saturday, then the next Saturday is the 1st of November. So they've got a whole recovery week then. Then it goes Saturday, Stoke, Tuesday, Blackburn, Friday, Watford.
Exactly.
As I say, the next 5 games, if we can get 8 points from the next 5, I'll be well pleased with that. But in reality, that sort of winning 2, drawing 2, losing 1, 3 wins, 2 defeats in the next 5, 25 points, a third of the season gone. That's half decent. I think we'd all be happy with that, wouldn't we, Mark?
Yeah, I think the strange thing, and we've bemoaned the lack of goals recently in the last 5 games. We seem to have dried up, scoring only 4 goals, but we're still because Coventry are the exception. We are actually the joint third highest goal scorers in the division.
Yeah,
and our goal difference into shabby either with +6. So early in the season, I think 7th place. I think that's quite decent in a division where nobody's really running away with it. The exception is Coventry City, where they're averaging nearly 3 goals a game, which is ridiculous at this level so far, isn't it? And they had big away wins. They had 7-1 home win against QPR, 4-0 away at Millwall, then a 5-0 or 5-1 away at Sheffield Wednesday. A standout result. So they're running. They've scored 29 goals in 10 games, and we've scored 16. But that's the joint third highest.
Yeah. No,
we're not doing badly.
Considering we're bereft of options up front, that's not a bad record.
Yeah.
All right, guys, I think we're done for today. We'll be doing our Southampton review on Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock. So hopefully you can join us for that. Thanks to everybody that's watched us at this live recording on Sunday morning. And obviously you can listen to it on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. And I've got around to uploading this later on today. But for now, Tom, Dave, Mark, thanks for your contributions today. And everybody, thanks a lot for listening. And later in the week, thanks to you for watching, or watching, then listening. Got my tongue twisted there. All the best, everybody.